elected vice chair, I think a year or two after joining the foundation, and it has been a great experience so far.
A great experience. I like the word great. Now, organizations like the foundation promoting the legacy of an icon of Guyana, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bonham, in fact, an icon for the Caribbean. It is a task that, because persons have labeled him all kinds of description he has received, and they have attributed a number of things to him that has affected this nation. But I know, and in kind of promoting an individual and a legacy of that sort will require specific activities, and those activities will have to be carefully planned and executed. And I, as vice chairperson, I know you have been an integral part of that. And like everything else, the kind of foundation in itself is growing at the moment. In fact, the objective, the overall goal of the organization, as far as I have been advised and told, and as far as I'm aware, is to have kind of representative groups of the foundation in all the regions of this country. We haven't reached there yet, but I know one of the reasons why we are so happy to have people like you in the foundation is that we'll be able to have, like you just described, fresh ideas, fresh face in terms of addressing things, Forbes Bonham and what he has been able to do. How do you see the organization moving in that direction with you being part of its outfit?
Well, I think education is important, providing the public with information about the life and works of the late founder leader, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bonham, putting information out there so people have access to factual information so that they can make an assessment of who the man was. And I think the symposia that we have been organizing over the years have been helpful in that regards. We have recently resuscitated the Forbes Bonham Foundation website, which will be launched soon, and that would be a source where persons can go and get information on the life and works of Forbes Bonham. We have also done community activities. We've gone into the villages of Mocha Arcadia, Melanie. We've gone to New Amsterdam and Linden, and where we held a few symposia also. And through that, we hope that persons will get information so that they can contribute to the discussion about the works and the legacy of Forbes Bonham.
Great, wonderful. I like that. I think that the thrust of the foundation is very sound based on that the explanation you have just given. But I want to say also that we if I can take a cue from the program that have been conducted over the years on Channel 9 and under the auspices of the Forbes Bonham Foundation, the public seem to be thirsty for information in relation to some of the great achievements of Forbes Bonham. On our program, the State of the Nation, we have addressed a number of subject matters on this program that was covered, that focuses on Bonham. And some of those programs were Forbes Bonham and foreign policy, Forbes Bonham and independence, Forbes Bonham and labor, Forbes Bonham and women, Forbes Bonham and young people. People say that he believed in young people. And some of the challenges that he faced as leader of the nation had to be kind of confronted with some very decisive kind of policies. And one of those policies, I'm sure that you must have read about his stewardship in relation to bringing about programs that can serve the interests of young people to promote the development of this country. And a few of those things I can think about is, first of all, free education, and then the development of some institutions like the GNS. I would like to have your comments on those things.
Well, as a recent graduate, I would like to talk about his contribution to the development of the University of Guyana.
Okay, go right
Um,
ahead.
One of the things that I did during my journey at over the last 4 years at UG was to utilize the resources available at the library. And so I read a lot on the early establishment of the University of Guyana and try to get different perspectives from other writers like Clem Cicheran and different other persons who would have written on the history of the University of Guyana. And that is something I would like to encourage other young people and students of the University of Guyana to do, is to go to the library and read the resources available and try to, acquire as much knowledge and information as possible, because I found it rather interesting and revealing, to read. I may not remember everything right now, but it has helped to clarify and give you a broader perspective on what went on. Forbes Burnham was a very complex person, and I was able to read and understand, why he made some of the choices that he did, the importance of education, the importance of the University of Guyana and its growth and development to young people, providing an opportunity for us to ordinary young people who may not have had the financial resources to be given an opportunity to further their education. And all you had to do at that time was to give back service to the country, which I think is very important. And even now it talks about free education. I still think that giving service to your country is very important. And that was what national service was all about too.
Thank you, Jillian. That's a great response. I think that we should also try to focus. But Forbes Burnham, like you quite rightly described him, was a very complex person. And as Prime Minister and President of this country, in fact, he was the first executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. He was voted as the Caribbean man of the 20th century. And there are many other accolades that have been ascribed to him in relation to the work that he has done, just not only in CARICOM, but kind of wider field, in the online movement and League of Nations. All those organizations have record of things that Forbes Burnham did. I like what you said in the area of education, where the establishment of the University of Guyana and so on. There were some issues that had to be confronted in relation to the role of women in development. I don't know if you've covered any reading on that, but I would just like you to comment on the role or the kind of promotion of women in development in Guyana.
Yes, I think that is an important topic today, the role of women in development, and Burnham was very big on promoting women, and it's great today to see that a woman is now the head of the University of Guyana, Dr. Paloma Mohammed. I think there's a great accomplishment in the work of women in Guyana. And I think we have been making significant progress. The valedictorians, both valedictorians this year are women, young women. And I think also it's important for women of mature age, so to speak, stepping up and furthering their education. It's not easy once you have advanced in age, to be in a group with younger people. It has its challenges. I don't recall any feeling out of place. I was always, the group that I was in, my classmates, always made me feel comfortable, and I had my own way of making them feel comfortable around me too. So, but I think women have been making great strides. We've been breaking the glass ceilings, and I'm happy, and I think there's room for more, room for improvement, but we've been doing great.
I asked that question for you to comment on women and his emphasis on the involvement of women in promoting development in Guyana, because you know, historically, like you quite rightly said, we are a country of 6 people with different cultures, but we're all Guyanese. And in our communities, we have people who are from the Islamic faith, some from the Hindu faith, majority from Christian, and we also have the Hallelujah group in the interior. All these are all kind of religious organizations, and the role of women seem to have changed drastically with programs that were introduced by Forbes Burnham. And it used to be a trend or a pattern where our men folk used to feel that the place of the woman is in the home. And those changes that were wrought as a result of policies introduced have seen the involvement of women in every spheres of activity in Guyana. For example, women were trained to operate heavy-duty kind of machine, and today that is still very current. Women have gone into fields that they were never involved in before, in mechanic, masonry, electrical work, electrical engineering. All those things have come about as a result of direct policies and the recognition that as a small nation we cannot perhaps marginalize a section of our population in our development thrust. So the involvement of our women, in his view then, was very critical to kind of promoting the development of Guyana. And I like what you said, the women now, as a result of those policies, are breaking the glass ceiling and are being involved in much more than what is happening now. Forbes Burnham and youth. I still recall, in fact I've lost my hearing, but I still recall days when Burnham used to entrust the planning of youth activities in Guyana into the hands of young people. For example, there was a time when we observed Youth Week, and those programs were administered, implemented and administered by young people in this country in all the regions. Your comment on an approach and involvement of young people in activities of that sort?
I think those activities and what Forbes Burnham sought to do involving young people, the celebration of Youth Week. I remember as a student at Enterprise Primary going to mass games. One of my older cousins took part in the turning of the pages. That was a big thing. Those activities were meaningful. The marches, we were all very excited to see our school out on the annual Youth Week parade. They allowed young people to showcase their talents in several fields: art, culture, sports, and even at the foundation we've been holding an exhibition at the National Library every Youth Week where we have a photo exhibition showcasing the life and works of Forbes Burnham. We also have annually the softball cricket competition for secondary schools across Georgetown and Region 3. So at the level of the foundation, we have sought to continue the legacy of Forbes Burnham. We also have our mentorship scheme. Good morning to all the mentees. I miss you. Hopefully we can reconnect very soon. But we've been doing our part at the level of the foundation to involve young people and to promote the legacy of the late Forbes Burnham.
Great. The future of this country lies on the shoulder of our young people. And what you have just said is very important for this nation, the involvement of young people in every spheres of activity. I want to come to a topic that we were promoting at the level of the foundation, and that is the question of Guyanese history. Now, as I am aware, our schools in terms of primary, nursery, secondary, university do not teach Guyanese history. And that is because there are different conclusions, different views from different groups in relation to history. I have advocated, and on this program for a number of years, the putting together of a bipartisan team to address this question of Guyanese history, which in my view, which this is personally, this is me, which in my view would showcase and reflect an accurate picture and reflect our history coming through slavery, indentureship, independence, post-independence, Republican status, all of that. What, having just come out of the university, what are your views on this idea of putting together a team, the importance of Guyanese history being taught in our schools?
I think it is important. It is a topic that I've heard about before. I didn't go to a senior secondary school. I'm a former student of Dolphin Community High School and Lodge Community High School, and at those levels history was not a subject that we did. But I know in most senior secondary schools they do it. But at the level of the University of Guyana, I was very happy that that was one of the mandatory courses that we had to do, Guyanese history. We did 2 semesters, one at the diploma level and one when for the degree. And it was very interesting doing Guyanese history. We looked from before emancipation, from Columbus right through. And one of the things that for me that helped me was because of my exposure before going to the University of Guyana, being a part of the Forbes Burnham Foundation, being a part of the youth arm of the PNCR, being a part of the GYSM, and even from my early involvement in youth work, starting from since I finished school at Lodge Youth Star, Lodge Star Youth Club, the Georgian Youth Leaders Council, all of these organizations, in some way you learn your own history. And from, listening to television programs, reading the papers, there was the history, Guyanese history in the Starbook News, they used to have a special feature. Those helped you. And as I was saying, at the University of Guyana, when we had to do things like about village councils, the village movement, trade unions, we looked at trade unions, the history of trade unions in Guyana, and a number of other areas we touched on. I was able to, draw on my own knowledge, having read about the history. You knew about Gawu, people like the late Komal Chan, Nathaniel Critchlow, and these people. These were names. Every year we have Labor Day. You always hear an address on the radio, and so piece by piece you get to learn your history. Up to yesterday, I'm now doing a free course. University of Guyana is offering human relations, and as part of that course, they give you a little history on Guyana. Major General retired Joe Singh was giving us, about the layout, the different areas in Guyana, what is being done. You understand what is being done in the various regions, the farming, ecotourism, etc. And all of that contributes to your knowledge and understanding of the history of Guyana. So yes, I agree that it should be taught in school, and it is being done at the University of Guyana. As I said before, it is mandatory for, at least in the social sciences, we had to do it. And I'm not sure how a board would work. I believe, as far as I know about history is recorded every day, and it's just a matter of who
Yes.
writes about what
Mhm.
is taking place. And if you write about what is taking place, the facts,
Mhm.
as a historian, you're supposed to be writing on the facts as presented, not necessarily from a personal,
Yes.
your opinion, but you present, you gather the evidence, the information, and then you present it, and it's up to us how we choose to interpret that event.
Your description, your description on history and what it entails is very accurate. And what I'm advocating, my advocacy has to do with the our history specific in terms of per se history of Guyana, because if you talk to any of the political organization in this country, you would get a different perspective as to what our history looked like. If you talk to representatives of trade unions, you would get a different view. If you talk to persons from the region in terms of Guyana history, you would get a different perspective. My advocacy, I agree that, but at the moment, it's just aspects, snippets of our history as it occurred over the years, from pre-independence, post-independence, and currently, quite recently, what has happened. That is being addressed by various institutions, University of Guyana, Coachella Level College, teach aspects. And my advocacy has to do with the state taking responsibility for putting together a bipartisan team to chronicle our history, Guyana history as a subject being taught in our schools, whether it's at nursery, primary, at university subject. And I think that will be a very colorful history. This is just my view. So that's what my advocacy on the program is all about. And I listen to you, and I think I can describe your involvement in the Fox Bonham Foundation as a success story in relation to your involvement in the foundation and the work that has been doing, your understanding of the thrust of the foundation in relation to the legacy of Fox Bonham. I recognize that you understand that very clearly with the promotion of the various activities that have been going on. I noticed that you have left out one, a very signal activity that is being done every year, our cycle race. In fact, that's one of the activities that we started at very small, in one leg. And now we have, well, of course, say for this year, we're going back on one leg because of COVID. But we had reached the point where we were having 3 legs races. Our annual kind of cycle race used to be from Springlands to New Amsterdam. Then we had from Linden to Georgetown, and Georgetown to Belfield and back. For this year, we just had Georgetown and Belfield. Your involvement in the foundation should be able to influence other people to become involved, because the foundation is not just involved in perhaps kind of promoting sports. And why? Sometimes you ask this question, why does the foundation kind of promote sports?
Because sports is important to our national development and putting Guyana on the world map. You know, look what sports has done for Jamaica. Sports can do the same thing for Guyana if we provide the necessary facilities and support our young people in, you know, getting involved and promoting their skills and their, you know, passion for whatever field they're in, cycling, swimming, athletics, whatever. It's just a matter of nurturing them. I know that the last chairman of the Sports Council, National Sports Commission, Christopher Jones, was talking about getting sports back into schools. I think that is important, and ensuring not just from the primary level right through to secondary, because most times what happens, these young people get involved in a lot of activities during primary school, but the minute they reach to writing the grade 6 exam and common entrance, they put sports on the back burner, which should be not be happening. You should be able to one should be able to complement the other. You have to find a balance. And sometimes when they go on to secondary school, a particular sport that they may be interested in, it's not being played in that secondary school, or sometimes they have to wait until they reach to third form, fourth form before they can get actually involved. So I think sports is important. Going back to what we were speaking about just now in terms of the history again, and I think there's a great book by Mr. Winston McGowan on the history of Guyana. Each political party has its own objectives and agenda, and of course each one has a right to promote themselves as however they see fit,
as reflecting the true history,
reflecting what they consider the history. So,
no, but for the purposes of Guyana,
for the purposes of Guyana, I'm saying that there are historians who have been doing work, like I just mentioned, Mr. Right, and he would have chronicled the history of Guyana. So, if you, as an individual, are interested in the history of Guyana, then it would be your responsibility to get books or articles from different perspectives. So you can go and read the New Nation, you can read the Mirror, you can read what the WPA is putting out, read what the AFC is putting up, and that helps to give you a better understanding. As much as I have been a part of the Burnham Foundation and a part of the PNCR, that never stopped me from reading the Western Trial or reading other critics on Burnham, because that helps me to get a better understanding and strengthen my knowledge and passion and whatever I have to do as a member of the Forbes Burnham Foundation. Reading and learning, reading other people's perspective don't necessarily weaken or make you anti. It helps. Knowledge, acquiring knowledge is just, something that we should want to do.
Yeah, okay. I will continue my advocacy for the purposes of the nation, that we should have what I will call a common position on our history. You mentioned the involvement of young people as well. Forbes Burnham was very big on sports, and you mentioned the facilities. Our sports hall. In fact, in those days, as I recall, organized sports in terms of clubs and so on was very limited. We had a number of different entities that sponsored sporting activities. Maybe you might be young, you wouldn't know Cosmos and Everest. Those are all clubs that had something to do with ethnic relations, and because we have six different races in this country, and you find different groups had different clubs, and Forbes Burnham sought to make sure that the facilities, our sports council, our sports hall, a place where persons can go and do different indoor sports. And not just to stop there, he was also big on culture. Culture was kind of one of those things that Forbes Burnham was big at. And because of his belief in the culture of Guyana and the culture of the Caribbean, he was very instrumental in organizing our first Carry Festa program, the Caribbean Festival of Creative Arts was held in Guyana in 1972. But since then, there has been a falling away on cultural engagement. As a vice chairman of the foundation, what would you advocate to really rejuvenate this perhaps thrust of cultural exposition or cultural engagement in Guyana going forward?
Well, first of all, I'm a Carry Festa born baby.
That's interesting.
So I always remember Carry Festa and associated with when I was born. Yes, culture is very important. I think a lot has been done more can be done and should be done to develop the arts in Guyana. I attended a graduation a couple of years back for the national, can't remember, but the valedictorian, I remember a young man speaking passionately about the government investing more in the arts and focusing more, providing scholarships for persons who are in the arts, acting, whether you're directing, whether you're a script writer, actors, I don't think musicians, well, Mr. Hines is a musician, so I think it will. But whether you're an artist, everyone in the creative section, I think it's something that we also did because it's part of communication. More focus should be played. It's an area where Guyana can also invest in. We can get persons to come here and use our interior locations for filming,
Yes.
movie production. Those are areas that we can look at to explore. We have a rich hinterland and wonderful sites that persons can come and really. So those are areas that we can look at to develop, not just. We talk about ecotourism, but we can also look at the creative section as an area for tourism and for economic development.
Yes, I'm talking today with Mrs. Julian Gall, a success story of the Forbes Bonham Foundation. Mrs. Gall has just graduated from the University of Guyana with a degree in public communication, and we're looking at her involvement, her journey in the foundation. I want to always try to invite my viewers to be part of the program. So very soon I'll be opening the lines so you can call in, and we will perhaps hear your contribution in this program. Gillian, we were talking about education, culture. We spoke a little bit about sports, and I want to go into the area of labor relations, Forbes Bonham and labor, because you said you have read widely on issues pertaining to Forbes Bonham. Forbes Bonham and labor relations, where we protect our workers in terms of the role that they have to play in the development of Guyana. Forbes Bonham and labor, the importance of the worker protection, in the work environment. I know we have a lot of unions, and Forbes Bonham, he was credited as a very effective leader of the Guyana Labor Union. And I think us, at the level of the foundation, we also encourage children whose parents are members of the Guyana Labor Union to be part of your mentorship scheme that the Forbes Bonham Foundation administers. I would like to hear your comments on Forbes Bonham and labor relations.
Well, I don't know how much I can add to his legacy and the record in terms of his contributions in labor, but I would like to see a lot more done in the field of labor activism in Guyana. I don't believe that sufficient is happening. I think the labor unions can play a far more active role in the development in Guyana. It's not enough to just be giving commentary, but there needs to be more activism. I think maybe it's time for some fresh blood in the trade union movement. When we think about the trade union movement and the involvement of Forbes Bonham and this activism for the rights of workers and the trade union movements throughout the Caribbean, we don't see that level of involvement and activism. I mean, a lot is happening in this country in terms of workers workers are in need of protection, you know, and if we don't have if they don't have the necessary representation, then it is easy for the government to and the private sector to continue to exploit workers. And I think it's time for more young people to get involved, to defend not only themselves but the legacy of their generation and other young people to come. You have to get more involved, and trade unionism is very, very important to the development of any country. Being involved in a trade union and being able to have a trade union, your trade union representative speak for you whenever you feel like anything has happened to you in the workplace, you feel like your rights is being infringed on. As a matter of fact, the mere fact that you're a part of a trade union
Yes.
that is actually doing what it is supposed to do would drive fear into your superiors, your managers, your employers, and they would want to think twice about interfering with your job security. But what is happening now is that the government, the private sector employers feel it's a free for all, you know, we can just do, and then it is on you now, the victim, the employee, you now have to go and find a lawyer. You don't have the resources to fight and defend, when you should be having a trade unionist. Your representative, you should be paying union dues. Get yourself involved in a trade union, pay your union dues, and seek to get better representation. That is that's where Forbes Burnham started, Chelly Dragon, and all these leaders in the trade union movement as young people.
Like I said, Gillian Gall, a success story of the Forbes Burnham Foundation. Gillian, I like the answers you're giving on the varying topics. I recognize that you have read extensively of the truth. I want to go to an area that is very common, and in some instances I want to describe as very what I call uncomfortable for a lot of Guyanese. Of course, being a country of various ethnic groups, one of the first things when Forbes Burnham came into power was a sterling effort that he made to bring all Guyanese, in spite of their beliefs, religious belief, ethnic background and others, to bring everyone together. And he was, on a scale of 1 to 10, he was successful. I would give him a score about 5 out of 10 in terms of success. But we are still plagued with the division. We're still plagued with some very divisive actions and policies of a different stage of the development of Guyana. And currently, that is one of the, perhaps, sword over our head of kind of division. Forbes Burnham was big on togetherness. He was big on nationalism. He was big on being one nation and one destiny. Your comments on this particular aspect of Guyanese life?
I agree with you that he was very passionate about togetherness and national unity. I think that is something that we're still struggling with, and it's something that we need to address as a people and as a nation. Coming together, shared governance, you know, has been a topic that we've been skirting around, and it's time that we frontally address it and really decide what it is that we want as a nation and work towards, you know, addressing whatever issues we have at a level of our constitution, constitutional reform, etc. But it is time that we address these issues, and we can keep putting it on the back burner, you know, and going around in a circle. We have to, and it has to start at the community level. It has to start at the individual, at the individual level, and then as a community we really discuss our leadership issues. We have to come to that point where we begin to hold our leaders accountable. Too often we are willing to just elect a leader and just, throw back and allow them to do whatever, and then we make excuses. We make more excuses for our leaders than our leaders make for themselves in this stewardship. And we have to really start doing that and hold them accountable. And until we start holding them accountable, we're going to continue to receive mediocre.
Yes, but you said we should begin at the individual level. My mind said individual. You're talking about mature person. We should start at the level of the family, at the home. I think our collective thrust of being what I would call one people, one nation, has to begin at the level, I suppose, at the level of the family, where children are being taught those concepts and practice those things from the family. And when as you grow and mature, there'll be an innate recognition of this particular quality which you more or less promote. And obviously the individual then, therefore, will be the person to carry it forward. I want to tell...
I think it's important you mentioned the family, because the conversations that we have as a family in the home is very, very important.
That's
in
right.
terms of promoting national unity and this whole racism issue that keeps rearing its head. I remember when my son was in nursery school, the driver that was taking him to school used to describe the office of the president. At that time, Jack Deere was the president, and he used to be describing the office of the president as some museum, some comedy, some negative remark.
Description, yeah.
And my son came home and told me, and I told him, I said, that is the office of the president. I said, regardless of what you may think or any of us may think about the office holder, that is the office of the president, and I don't want to hear you calling it any other name other than the office of the president. That is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But it is important that we, even in our politics, and we may have different views, and especially during this last elections, we allowed ourselves to get very emotional and carried away. People were just saying, whatever, and cause a lot of disrespect, not just of persons but of these offices, so that the children in your home grow up believing that it's okay to make any derogatory remark about their leaders, calling the president any kind of name. That is not acceptable, regardless of what you may think. That is the president of the country, and we must teach our children to respect institutions.
Okay. Thanks, Julian. I want to advise our viewers, the lines are now open. I give you a few minutes, we can talk about this, but we'll continue our conversation. Look for the... Morning, you're on the air. Morning.
Good morning, brother. How are you?
Morning, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah. Join your program late, man. I don't know what is happening. Very sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, with your friend Rasta, man.
Oh, Rasta, how you do?
Yeah, well, I hear you been talking about the lady and say that good morning to your guest also.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning.
And she's very instructive and knowledgeable.
Yes.
But then we'll be speaking about leaders.
Yes, sir.
But for the last 100 years, there's only two real leaders that had in this corridor. Morris Bishop and Charles Bonham.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yes.
Every time I look to go in the market, I will see the present leaders that we have right now. Lying and stand,
Yes.
Endless shallow. They're like English potatoes.
I hear you.
A set of eyes. But anyway, rolling the guy, but that's it. No vision. They cannot even realize that recognition is already begin to investors.
Yes.
You see?
I hear you.
Everybody see
I hear you.
the book is hidden until the class is in you. And people will position of power. So we as a people, we are to, as the sister rightly said, make whoever's in charge accountable.
Yes.
There's time that we need to take.
Yes.
We do so much, and no more.
Yes.
No more you will take. So we need as a people to stop talking
And hold these people accountable.
acting and hold these people responsible.
Yes.
You see what happened in Africa the other day with the leader? They said Corona kill it. But you know what I mean? I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that. Remember, he's one of the people that say, well, here what happened. Africa is for Africans. It's as we are today, We have never really benefited from any of our extractive resources.
Yes.
And apparently it seems that we will not benefit from this isle. As the president would say, not bonanza. President said bonanza.
All right. Okay.
So I don't want to take up too much of time, but just one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I heard the president opening the fisheries that they had, not the Chinese one, not our new colonizers, but the one by Pretty Paul. You know what the president said?
Yeah.
We have invested over something how much million US dollar. We, not Pretty Paul. The operative word there being we. Who is we? Go there, brother. We gotta meet up and talk, man. This time too short.
Yeah. Thanks for calling anyway. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, partner, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're kind of running out of time, Julian, and I want to go to I want to go to another aspect of Forbes Burnham life. We're running. I got a few minutes. I won't get it 2 minutes after, hopefully. I want to go to Forbes Burnham and the region. Of course, I know he organized Carrie Festa in 1972, and you, just out of university, one of the success stories of the foundation, being involved with the foundation and as a senior representative of the foundation. Morning, on here. Morning, sir. Hello?
Pleasant morning, how are you?
I'm good. Brother Moses, how are you?
Is it a fact that India gets $1 million barrels of oil and the value is a rumor?
I just have a minute or more to go. You gotta be a little fast.
Yeah, is it a fact?
Yeah.
India get oil under the world market price?
If India got oil under the world market price?
Yeah.
I saw a report in the newspapers, I don't remember the amount, but I saw a report in the newspaper, and you have to take things reported in the newspaper with a pinch of salt these days. But I saw a report in the newspaper where they said that some of our oil was shipped to India. But our program today is not geared to answer those questions. But I saw a report of that sort somewhere in one of the newspapers.
Why get a program to talk about a thing called colonization scheme?
You would like a program to talk about that?
Yeah, because the oil thing is vast political attacks as far as the India of having an Indian continent, South American continent need not be emphasized. That is embarrassing. That
Brother Moses, I will once again raise with the executive of the foundation whether we can consider a program of the type you have just spoken of, and whether we can have that on going forward. We can have a program of that sort where we can invite questions, comments, and have a presentation on those ideas which I know is very dear to you.
Those documented facts, not ideas.
Yeah, well, you call it whatever it is, but we can have a program of that and invite members of the public to comment.
We'll get a document and a book from the Ghana Reparation so that I identified it for you.
Okay. Thanks for calling. That's my brother Moses, very passionate about things African and development of young people of Guyanese ancestry. Morning, on here.
Hey, good morning.
Morning, sir.
I was made to understand that from a fella.
Please speak a little louder.
Okay, do that. It was made to understand from a fella the other day. The man was telling me that he bring up the story that Bonham did today, the money that he built the culture center with.
Yeah.
And this person is a person that is affiliated with the leading party right now. And the man showed me clearly that they are in support and there is vexation that Bonham took the money and built the culture center. Which they said that the money was there to pay the Indians who stayed and didn't go back to India. So to me, like, they have a personal vendetta and they're using these things now. What are you doing? Just to pay back and make the other pay. But it's all of us in it. We are guys.
Yes.
But who gone and who stay? Who gone. Who stay? We are guys. People still got a more to the heart for these kind of things, right? Just can't understand what's going on. There's my troubles right now.
I think the decision to use some of that fund to build a culture center, because our Indian kind of brothers and sisters, the reparation fund of indentureship, which was used to, some of it was used for the construction of the culture center, is a kind of decision which was applauded by lots of Indian kind of brothers and sisters in this country, because it served the purpose of all Guyana. All Guyana. You see, Forbes Bonham was so careful in addressing issues and making kind of decisions that whatever is a decision, it was being made at institutions that have been left by under his administration, is left for all Guyana. We have the culture center, we have the sports hall, we have the University of Guyana, we have the Cyril Potter College of Education, and all those institutions and organizations speak volume of the stewardship of Forbes Bonham. So when you hear people talk about those things, you need to be in a position to, because these are the things that make leaders. These are the things that, because when a leader kind of passes on, there must be evidence of his stewardship which ought to last. And that's one of the reasons why the Forbes Bonham Foundation is working to ensure that the legacy of Forbes Bonham is kept alive.
Guess what the man put me for walk away.
Yeah, thanks for calling, my friend.
Yeah, put me for walk around.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, we are almost out of time. I want to ask my colleague here, Vice Chairperson of the Forbes Bonham Foundation, Julian Gall, your final comments in relation to your success story being part of the Forbes Bonham Foundation.
I would like to take this opportunity, Mr. Hines, to thank my son, Matthew Gall, my parents, Frank and Elizabeth Gall, all my relatives, my aunt, Auntie Anne as we call her, my lecturers at the University of Guyana, my classmates, my group members, everyone that contributed in one way or the other towards my 4 years journey through the university. I could not have done it with you. I would like to thank the executive, the board of the Forbes Bonham Foundation also, for providing me with the opportunity and the exposure that I've had over the past maybe a decade by now. The lessons that I learned over the year, even being a part of the GYSM, going back serving on the RDC, all helped to prepare me for my journey during the 4 years. It helped me with my public speaking, my knowledge on national issues. When I started the University of Guyana, I had to write the UGEE, the entrance exam, and I was able to, use my knowledge from being involved in the organization, the foundation, the political party, etc., to write my essay, and that is how I was able to get entrance into the University of Guyana. So my exposure, my experiences over the years really helped me tremendously in navigating the difficulties. I was able to use my experience also to help a lot of my classmates, the younger ones. Many times, it can get tough, it can get very stressful, and so So I was happy that I was placed there as probably one of the oldest students in my class, to be able to work along with other young people, and together I'm happy that most of them were able to graduate, and even those that haven't graduated yet, I intend to assist in whatever way I can to ensure that they complete the journey. So I thank everyone, and I appreciate all the kind words and greetings. I'm going to get back to persons individually to thank them. So once again, thank you for having me on the program, and I intend to use my knowledge and that I've acquired over the past 4 years to continue to work in the Forest Gordon Foundation, the mentorship scheme, and to help to continue to build the organization.
All right, thank you, Julian. I think that's a lot we've said. I want to congratulate you once again, and I want to say to our viewers, nice being with you today in your kitchen, in the living room, and the bedroom. Some of you lying on the bed and watching the program. Thanks for having me here, and we will be back with you the fourth Sunday in the month of April, when we bring to you another program, The State of the Nation, coming to you with the
I also want to join you in extending my sympathy to the family of Namila Schultz. She was also a strong supporter of the Forest Gordon Foundation.
That's right.
Myself and family, and I want to take this opportunity to extend my sympathy to her family.
Okay, Dylan, thanks. And once again, to all our viewers, see you again fourth Sunday in the month of April. Bye.
What up, this is Jamal Adams, and you're locked and loaded to Channel 9, HBTV channel, and stay tuned.
Hey, it's Alex. Welcome to 96.1 Voice FM. Please remember to tune into HBTV Channel 9. You're actually right next door.
Hey, I'm Adrian, representing Clark's Productions Incorporated, and we only watch HBTV Channel 9, and we can drink to that.
Order to give you house shoes and safety tips, so when you wind. Now wish